Hey everybody, one of the GMG Indie Hour. We are back with a new game picked by the patrons, and if you guys have not seen this show before, this is our 20th episode. We've covered actually over 20 games, because the original concept for this was that we were going to cover and pair games together, and that got real squirrely as the games got more esoteric, so we've actually gone back to doing one game per hour now and given a little bit more of a deep dive on them. It's also helped even out the fact that some games are a little more rules dense than others. So some of the earlier, lighter rule indie games didn't take quite as long to go through and give kind of an overview of. The newer ones and some of the more sort of deep dive ones. We had some really long episodes for a while there. But this is a show where we throw a spotlight on games that you may not have heard of, small print games, independently published games, and games that are just not in the mainstream. Give them a little spotlight, a little more show and tell. And they are usually picked by poll by the GMG patrons. This week's game is going to be Void Pirates, sci-fi skirmish gaming from Four Color Studios, which is a relatively classic sci-fi skirmish game, which is available on Wargames Vault. I'll link it in the video description below if you want to check it out, and is in the theme of a Guardians of the Galaxy, sort of a Firefly kind of road show where you and a band of plucky heroes that you quickly put together will fight scum and villainy in a universe kind of your choosing. It's a miniatures agnostic game. It is skirmish and low model count so that you can kind of just drive your RPG forward. It has a full set of campaign rules, experience rules, and rules for designing your own heroes. So let's jump in and check it out. You guys can get an overview of the game today. And of course, if you are watching this live on YouTube, as it goes, we have recorded this a week before with the GMG patrons, as you see here in the chat. And they will steer and direct where this show goes. I'm but the humble messenger for their will. We usually have a poll of between 10 and 20 games. I tend to refresh it every now and again. And then we go through and cover them based on which one gets picked each week. And we tend to get to them all eventually, but GMG patrons are also allowed to nominate new games to go on the list. We have links. People can check them out week to week. And generally we just try and put as much positive vibes out there as we can so people check out more things outside the mainstream. So let's dive in and check out some Void Pirates. All right, here we have our lovely cover for the game. And as I said earlier, this is available on Wargames Vault. It is $4.99 for the 100-page PDF. It's black and white with some lovely illustrations, and it's already hit Best Silver Seller. It's written by Scott Pyle, and the artists are Alexander Cook, I believe, for the cover there, and some of the interior artwork as well. Void Pirates ply the spaceways with backwater worlds of the far millennium seeking adventures and riches. This set of modified goal system rules, which is the sort of proprietary rule set that Scott pioneered, allows you to build a small crew of bounty hunters, hardened spacers, or space truckers, intrepid explorers, galaxy crusaders, or whatever your model collection allows. Play skirmish games with as few as 2 models per side, up to about 6. So, and this is kind of reminiscent of games like AE Bounty. Actually, he credits that game in the sort of the notes at the end of the book, where you can kind of scale up and down how heroic your heroes are. So you could have kind of a group of loosely organized kind of dudes who suck in the beginning, or just a couple of hard-bitten veterans. So if you think of it as Batu and Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell as the elites on one side, you have a 2-man team, down to the Firefly crew at the beginning, where they're all just kind of a ragtag. Some of them are pretty competent, but some of them are relatively fresh, like the Doctor, and don't really know what they're doing. Detailed character creation and campaign rules allow you to create a unique crew member and watch them change and grow as they survive battles on the galactic fringes. All you need to play are as few as 10, a few figures, 10mm to 28mm, a handful of 6-sided dice, a metric measuring tape, and a yearning to tell 2 cool stories on the tabletop. So let's check out the rulebook. Now, like I said, lovely cover here, and we'll go through the credits. Written by Scott Pyle, and additional materials by Joseph Dragovich. Front and back covers by Alexander Cook and Carrie Posing. And the interior artwork also by Alexander Cook. He's got some cool sketches in here, and Chris Muller. It has a fairly minimalist layout and design. My one, and I think, who did the layout? Layout and page design by Joseph Dragovich. The layout is a little page intensive, because there is a lot of flipped pages here. Yeah, I would love if this was 2 pages per sheet. I wonder if I could display it that way in the future. It'd be way handier to actually look at here. But as I said, overall, we've got a nice breakdown here, 100-page rulebook that adds everything from vehicles and damage into campaign rules and stuff like that as well. And there's cheat sheets at the end. All right. Introduction and basics. Void Pirates gives players the tools to run desperate, story-driven skirmishes between bands of hardened spacers. These are the goal system engine for fast and fluid play with minimum bookkeeping. The scale of the game has been whatever you want, left intentionally vague. And usually the table space is about 2 feet by 2 feet or 60 centimeters by 60 centimeters. Goal system uses multiple 6-sided dice, so like a pool. Each player must shove about 10 d6s of measuring tape and ruler marked in centimeters and enough miniatures to fill out his or her skirmish warband. So this is a metric game. If that bothers you, you can always convert it to inches relatively easily. Like it's not hard. And most even like imperial measuring devices will have metric measurements on them. Who are the Void Pirates? They're a crews of spacers or spacefarers or spacers who've turned to piracy to make a living amongst the stars of the far millennium. They prey upon other ships and crews, marauding their spaceways to steal cargo, take slaves, and kidnap star nobles to hold for ransom. So you're not really good guys. You're more, what's the word? Scruffy nerf herders, I would say is the general colloquialism for this type of folk. And then model count and basing. Playing a game of Void Pirates requires only about 2 to 6 figures per side. You are playing head-to-head. Every figure in the game represents a unique character and should be individually mounted on some sort of base. Ideally, all models are based consistently, but this isn't the case. It won't really affect play. And then some basics. The key rule, VP belongs to the players. If you don't like the way something works, discuss it and change it. It's the old Thomas Pirinen rule. I call it a Thomas Pirinen rule because one of the classic sayings in wargaming design, it was from an interview with Thomas Pirinen, the creator of Mordheim, when he worked for Games Workshop. And he was asked, do you mind when players change the rules to your games if you don't like them? And he says, I don't get mad when people change the rules to my games. I get mad when they don't. Because obviously if a rule doesn't suit you and it's been made to feel a way by a game designer, then you should go ahead and change it however you want. The goal roll, and this is the heart of goal system rules. It comprises the heart of Void Pirates. Most actions in the game require a goal roll, and during every goal roll, a figure has a certain number or pool of dice they must roll. You're rolling for 4 pluses, and this will determine the number of goals collected in that throw. Players ignore the rolling dice of less than 4, and the shorthand for this is going to be D, so like 6 dice. The rule of 4E. Every figure in Void Pirates rolls 4D for any check unless a special trait or situation dictates otherwise. So standard dice rolls are going to be 4, and then you might add or subtract that to your rolls, right? The power of 6, rolling a 6 is special. It counts as 2 instead of 1 to get exploding 6s. And then the chance roll. Anytime a player needs to figure out the result of an unusual situation in a gray area, they make a chance roll. Somebody roll 2d6 and note the number of goals scored. If it becomes a matter of degree, the more goals generated, the better. If no goals are rolled, things go against the roller. It's kind of like a roll-off kind of rule from when something is kind of uncertain. Certain models, types of abilities, special traits, scenario conditions, or others will call for a chance roll, and many of these rolls may require more than a single roll for the result to go in the favor of the roller. Unopposed goal rolls, just count the total number of goals, and then target numbers. This is when you need to get to a certain number of rolls to win. So like an easy, you get 1 success, you win. Average is 2, hard is 3, 4 is very hard, because that would mean you need to roll 4 plus on all 4 of the dice. And then 5 plus is extremely hard because you got to roll all 4 dice of 4 plus and get a number of 6s, right? Or like 2 6s and a 4. And this is your usual range. So like the target number, it's a really, again, goal system is an incredibly simple core mechanic. And I quite like it because it's a challenge test mechanic. There can also be opposed rolls where you're both rolling pools and then comparing your conditions. And that comes up here. And then rerolls, a character's equipment or traits may allow you to reroll. Whenever reroll comes into play, a player can pick up a dice that rolled less than 4 and roll it again. If he's feeling lucky, he can pick up a dice that rolled a 4, 5, or 6 and try and roll a 6 with it. So like if you need to get a 5 plus, you can reroll your 4 pluses to try and get like fish for 6s too. Rerolls resulting from campaign events or circumstances are expendable and once used can't be used again. And then rerolls from different sources may add it together, but a model may never benefit from more than 6 rerolls in any dice pool. So no matter how many rerolls you normally get, you only get a maximum of 6. Void Pirate figures move at a base rate of 6 centimeters. So 6 centimeters is roughly 2.5. It's like 3 inches, roughly. Certain, that's a little less than 3 inches, like 2.5 inches. Certain special traits or equipment possessed by a figure may alter the base rate to be faster or slower. And then figures and force creations. This is the heart of Void Pirates because the idea here is that you pick your miniatures then you pick like what they look like, and then you give them stats. And because it's a miniature driven game, it's a lot like actually games like Forbidden Psalm, where I think this game really favors people who like either old miniatures that are kind of kooky and have like a weird vibe to them, or kit bashing and creating things. So this is a rule system that's very, even though it doesn't really predate it. It kind of predates the like amalgam, like the fad of it is that like hashtag 28 Blanchitsu gaming style. This is very much the early days of that idea where, you know, make what you want and then pick the rules for it afterwards. There are 6 basic types: heroes, lurkers, shooters, specialists, thugs, and troopers. And then your basic course or stat line is your name, your point cost, your description, your traits, and your vitality, which is usually 3, which is like your hit points. First rule, think of a cool name. Each model must have a standard name, but they should always be cool. And you should always know this name of the type line of the record card in the brackets you provide. But since it's a skirmish game, we encourage you to think of a flavorful tagline. So type, hero, grizzled veteran of the Gene Wars. So like you put in your type, and then you have to give them like a cool subclass. And they give you some examples in here too. So like a hero costs 20 points. And this is where you balance your crew creation of like, do you have like lots of heroes, or how big or small is your warband? So a hero's 20 points, and you're going to be like the cosmic chosen one, or this is your Star-Lord, right? This is your dude is Star-Lord, man. Come on. Heroes are powerful and versatile. Many crews will only have one hero, but a small crew can be comprised of only 2 or 3. And then traits, they get a fate pool. This model has 2 dice it can allocate to a certain type of action during the round. He may allocate a maximum of 2 to a single action type and or split them up. They're kind of like might points in Lord of the Rings. Allows you to boost stuff. He allocates these dice at the beginning of the round before initiative is determined, and once allocated, they must remain fixed until they're done. But you can assign them to an action type like a close combat attack, a defense, a range attack, range defense, and basic non-combat check. So kind of, you have 2 floating dice you can add to a pool, and you kind of hedge your bets each turn on like what you're trying to do each round. And then fate dice assigned to a certain action type augment that roll. They're hard to kill. As a major personage, heroes possess twice the vitality of a normal model, so 6 instead of 3. And they gain +2 dice on post-battle death checks to see if they die. And then initiative, heroes designate as the crew leader get +2 dice on initiative checks each round. And then loner, once per battle, if this model has 2 or fewer allies left on their side, it can activate a second time during the round. It gets a full second turn, including full movement. And once used, this ability recharges and can only be used on a 3+ chance roll. So 3+ chance roll means on 2 dice for a chance roll, right? You're going to roll a 6 and a 4, or 2 6s. Or you could assign, I think you could actually assign your fate dice to it as well. A model has 2 dice in the same turn, only to actions. Actually, never mind. So you couldn't put it on chance roll. That'd be cool if you could, though. Lurker for 10 points, an acolyte. This is your Gamora. Hatchling of the skittering host. And then they're agile. They can move vertical surfaces. Ambush fighter. Get a +1 dice attack and defense when they outnumber their foes in close combat. Fast. So they move 8 centimeters instead of 6. Sneaky. Lurkers. So 8 centimeters is roughly 3 inches, because 10 centimeters is 4 inches. Lurkers get +2 or +1 dice for covers, and a +2 if they have hard cover, and +3 if they have, +1 for cover bonuses. So soft becomes +2, and then hard becomes +3. Shooters, backwater gunslingers. They get kill shot once per game. Use a free action to make a 2+ chance roll. On a result, you automatically KO a trooper model with your range and with no dice rolls. You just kill somebody. And then shoot us +2 dice to range combat, attack, and defense checks. Because you're like a gunslinger, right? You're like a John Wick. Specialists, a Mentet calculator, or a scion of the star gods. Specialists are versatile models. Players can tailor to the needs of their warband. So they can pick 3 special traits. Choose 3 special traits from the list presented later in this section, and this will define you. So specialist is like, you get, I love that they included this in here, because sometimes your miniature is so weird that like kind of like the core of these, like a good person good with guns, someone who's sneaky, a hero type, those are pretty broad general like classes. Specialist could be anything: a doctor, a mechanic, a radio specialist, a pilot. Like, it's really cool that they have like a design your own character in here, and you just pick 3 traits for them, because that means that the weirder your model collection, the more likely you are to be able to come up with something for it. And then a thug. It's a Jane. +2 to close combat attack and defense rolls. Killing blow once per game. Use a free action to make a 2+ chance roll, and then you just KO somebody because you just sucker punch them. And then a trooper, a shoulder. They're the lesser fighters in the crew. You can refer to them as red shirts, mooks, or henchmen, but they can still prove deadly and useful in battle. And they're fighters. They get +1 dice to attack and defense rolls. Or close combat. You see you pick which one. The red shirts. And then special traits. These are for your specialists. Powering up for additional 5 points, you can select a special trait for your model. So this powering up allows you to tweak anybody else, and the specialists can then pick 3 from the special trait list. Like amorphous, you can be a blob. This allows you to do aliens too. Amphibious, you can be a frogman. A big damn hero, sir. A brute. Enhanced senses and tangles. So you get the idea here, right? These generally what they kind of reflect is the traits of the miniature itself. So however your model kind of looks, if you've got like a bigger guy on a 40 mil base, you give him brute, and then that's going to allow you to reflect kind of that your model is bigger. Flight, if you have wings. Inspiration for heroes only. You can do your mal speech, the aim to misbehave speech. Killing hands, if you want to be able to kung fu somebody, or lucky cuss. You're a lucky cuss, and that's no lie. Once per battle, you can pick up the entire dice pool and just reroll the whole damn thing. This does not apply to chance rolls. And then chance roll 3+, to be able to recharge it. If it requires a recharge, it'll give you a chance roll. Mind blast, if you want to shoot somebody with mind bullets, tenacious D stuff. If you want to kill a yak from 300 yards away. Move by attack, so you can do a brush off attack basically as you drive by. Multiple limbs, if you want to be some kind of weird alien. Natural range attack, like you can shoot somebody with your spit or eye lasers. Regeneration, you can hit points back. Savant, where you're doing science checks real good if you're a mentat. Speed, just move fast. You possess the potential to move at amazing speeds. Once per game, you can invoke this trait and move to 30 centimeters in a single round. It's a foot. Your speed allows you to cross difficult and impassable ground with no penalties and run up vertical surfaces. So you Spider-Man your way across the room. Star Priest, you're an exalted worshiper of the space gods or some other cosmic force. Your touch can heal the injured if the gods will it. Make a first healing check of the game versus TN4. On a success, heal a vitality in yourself or another model in base contact. Each subsequent healing attempt adds +1 because those gods get bored with you. And you get +2 dice on cosmic post-battle checks. Naturally be tough. 2-gun mojo if you want to John Wick somebody. Be versatile. And then select boosts. These represent one-time dice pool bonuses that refresh at the start of each new battle. Boosts come in 3 flavors: attack, defense, and non-combat. When a player wants to spend a boost, he can decide to do so after all dice have been rolled for the exchange, and this allows him to pick the best moment for its use. So I get the fate dice are maybe actually more like... these are both like might rolls. It's like another might roll, basically. And these are once per game, more like the might from Lord of the Rings. I use might as an example, a lot of like a diminishing resource, basically, that you have to spend judiciously to do things. And in this one, in a campaign, basically, you can decide which thing you're going to be able to boost. You never spend more than 1 dice from a boost on a single dice roll. But if you have more than 1 dice in a boost, you can boost that boost additional times during the game. We include some flavorful examples in these listings. It's like attack boosts, give you cool names. Chosen Warrior, Rogue Super Soldier, Stone Cold Killer, non-combat, Raised in the Streets, Seeker After Mysteries. And again, it's designed to reflect what does your miniature look like and how do you sort of see them working in the game. Because the RPG elements are kind of baked into the rules here, and the character design is, of course, the biggest part of it. Pick equipment. Each crew member needs some gear. Void Pirate leans towards fast playable rules and a bit of abstraction. An item marked rare counts as 2 picks. And will also be hard to acquire during campaign games. You get 3 equipment selections to cover weapons and gear when you first start up, but you can find more as you play the campaign. Loading up. If you're building a low model count crew and you want each member to have additional gear, pay 5 points in your model's base cost and add up to 3 more gear selections to his total. So for 5 points, you can have 6 pieces of gear. And then trading off, some models like powerful bioforms or deadly robots don't really carry equipment. They can trade all their equipment for an additional special trait instead. And note, each model begins with a basic close combat weapon for free. It doesn't count as one of their selections because they can always punch, kick, stab, whatever it ends up being. Armor, just classed by kind of heaviness up to power, but rare so that you can't just start off with it for power armor. And then armor-piercing ammo, basic melee weapons, big-ass guns, body shields, some kind of Dune-style body shield, brace of pistols, enhanced melee weapons, but they're rare. Grenades, because everyone wants to be able to throw a grenade. Jump packs, medikits, rebreather masks. Rifles are rare to start off with. Scanners for finding things. And here's our first piece of cool art. Look at this Weird monkey man shooting a rifle with his feet. What a hero. Standard close combat weapons, swords, sabers, and axes. And then putting your crew together. Oh, there's a note in here too that's probably interesting to talk about. So where are all the aliens? Void Pirate extracts alien species in creation, leaving it up to players to model how they choose to have them look in the game. If you want to create a hulking alien species, you give them a thug model. It's like Brute. Want a special race of sonically sensitive brain burners? Assign the model specialists and give them Savant and Mind Blast. This makes whipping up alien species fun and fast. If a special trait doesn't exist, just create a new one. Make up a new one. And then put your crew together. So you need 50 points worth of dudes. Just to refresh your memory, here's a quick breakdown. A hero's 20, a lurker's 10, shooter's 10, specialist 5. So if you took a hero with an additional trait and more weapons, you could have 2 heroes. Easy, right? So like one's got additional weapons, one's got additional trait. You're already at 50, which is 2 guys. A hero leading your warband, though, and then like a lurker, a shooter, a specialist, you're already at 55. So like... yeah, and using no heroes at all, you could easily have one of the other guys be the leader and not start with any heroes at all. Or a hero and a bunch of thugs. And this is just based on your model collection, so use whatever you want. And then actions in combat. Okay, so the actual nitty-gritty of the game rules. Just a quick comment before we get into this. One of my favorite pieces of like game design learning that I've come up with over the years is the idea that you want to write a rule book in the order people do things in. And that follows one of my favorite podcasts formats, which is actually an old write-up thing that we'd see in White Dwarf and Games Workshop literature, which is build, paint, play. And rulebook design that's kind of in that mode where you start off with collecting the miniatures that you're going to do and the stuff that you're going to need. Then you go into playing the game. I like that. So I like that the character creation and understanding like the core stat block and stuff like that comes before how you interact with the game and what you do. I think it's just smart game design. It lets you know what you need before you actually put it on the table and give you some context. So the combat round, like most miniature games, Void Pirates is a special sequence of events to help organize the chaos of action. Just 2 phases, initiative and take turns. In Void Pirates, a round consists of a number of turns equal to the number of models involved. Each model gets a turn to activate. And that's initiative. The initiative phase in Void Pirates determines the order in which models will take their turns. When the last model to act in a round has completed its last action, a new round begins with the Fate Refresh phase. Before the battle begins, each player designates one of his models leader. At the end of each round, or beginning, they make an initiative goal for that leader. So heroes get that +2 dice. Leaders possess an initiative pool equal to 4D, plus any modifiers for type, trait, or equipment. The leader who scores the higher number of goals wins the initiative for that round, may decide whether he wishes to activate one of his models first that round or whether they wish to defer. Break any ties by comparing initiative dice pools. If these are tied, then roll a single d6 until a high roller is determined and just roll off. So compare dice pools is if I was a hero going up against a regular guy who only had a 4 dice pool and we tied, the hero having a bigger dice pool would get to go first. And then multiple leaders. When a crew's leaders move from play, the player must choose a new one over the course of the game. And then take turns, go back and forth, making actions. A phase takes a number of turns. Each model takes a turn and performs a number of actions. There are 4 types of actions: move, free, combat, and special. Models may perform 1 move and either 1 special or 1 combat action per turn. Models can perform up to 3 free actions. So even though they're free, they're still capped. And that can be things that are short actions, like using a scanner. Some equipment types will give you free actions and skills too. Move, you get to make a move action. Models normally move 6 centimeters. A model may split up their action over the course of a turn, interspersing their movement with the performance of the other actions, including combat. And then measuring and base contact, measure base to base. Pre-measuring. Players can always pre-measure distances before, after, or during a model's move. And then facing, you can see 360. Charging. A charge is a type of move action where you get to add 4 centimeters to move a total of 4 inches. A model may charge up to and over extra ground or meet a foe in close combat. They can make 1 attack afterwards with a model at +1 dice. A model charging a foe must move at least 2 centimeters in a straight line in order to get the bonus. Certain free actions, like searching for hidden models, may still be attempted prior to charging, and models may charge to cover extra ground, but can't do anything but move and perform free actions during their turn. Charging is the most common method in close combat. A model must declare it's attempting to charge a model before measuring the distance. A model can charge an enemy that can't see because of train other factors, but it must first make a TN2 goal. roll to succeed. And this is a free action. So you have to kind of like search around to try and see somebody before you charge around a corner. And then models in active hiding can't be charged, obviously, because they're sneaking around. And a charge represents a total commitment of actions toward either the cover, extra ground, or meet a foe in close combat and can't be split up in the normal faction. Rules for getting knocked down, difficult terrain, climbing, jumping, crawling if you want to go prone. Free actions. There's two major types of free action, but certain special types can do it. A perception check to look around, or dropping prone is a free action. You can also do it as part of a move, so you can break up your move by slowing down. And then special options like opening and forcing doors, hiding, using items and picking up objects, using a trait. And then we got combat actions. You got to pick somebody that's in legal line of sight. So for combat, that would be close combat in base to base. And then various bonuses for being like aided by your friends. So getting additional dice. And yeah, that's like, again, it's all opposed dice pools to do these things. Can you shoot into combat? Attack ranges. So range attacks out to 10 centimeters, you get +1 dice. 10 centimeters out of 30, no modifier. And then 30 to 60, it's going to be +1 dice to the defender. And then over 60 is out of range. So over 2 feet on a 2-foot board, right, would be corner to corner. You're out of range. You have to be able to see, to be able to shoot. You get bonuses like +1 for soft cover, +2 for hard cover. You can stack mods for your abilities and stuff, like being a shootist. Some things blow up. And then details of damage. Every model in Void Pirates has a vitality rating using circles along the bottom of its stat card. A model can always begin one-off battle at its peak vitality, usually 3 but 6 for heroes. Models involved in a campaign can get injuries that carry over battle to battle, and then mark them off as they take damage. Once a character model hits 0 vitality, his or her player cannot afford any more damage, and they get taken out. Rules for burning, drowning in water, falling, diseases and poison, nerve gas, and then KO check. So when a model marks off its last point of vitality, track their force, his force is a KO check. KO is short for knockout, and it must make a TN4 check to remain standing. If the model fails this check, place it face down on the table where it last went, unless a model can medkit it, or use some power to heal the fallen. The model is effectively out of the battle. If the model makes its KO check, it may remain standing and fight off as normal. However, if it sustains any further vitality loss, it's KO'd with no further checks. So you can lose your last vitality and try and like stay standing basically and kind of doggedly kick into it. But as soon as you go knocked out, you're knocked out. You take one more, automatically you go down. KO'd models are at the mercy of their enemies. They can be coup de grace if someone's in base-to-base contact. Models may perform a single coup de grace by spending their combat action, making a TN3 range attack goal by doing it with guns. This is a basic scenario. We'll go through that so you guys can get the ideas of how to set it up. Basic one's just a firefight. You fight each other. Drive the enemy team from the board. Set up. Players use available pieces from the terrain collection to create like a battlefield with plenty of cover and interesting terrain features. General setup guidelines. For a 10 mil and 15 mil play, you should be playing on a 2x2 board. For 28 mil play, a 4x4 board is good. Each player should take their turns placing loose terrain features like buildings, vehicles, hills, or other obstacles. And 3 placements apiece should work well for a 2-player game, but more terrain is always going to enhance it. Choose a table edge and make an opposed initiative check. The winner decides which one he will go on. Deployment. Each player should deploy his or her team up to 10 centimeters, 4 inches from his or her table edge. And then end of the game. Players should fight for at least 3 full game rounds. Anytime after round 3, any player who's lost at least one model can choose to quit the battlefield. Fleeing in this fashion allows the player to escape with all of his actively KO'd models and all of their weapons and items. Otherwise, the battle goes on until one player's band is defeated or until some special condition is satisfied. And then scenario rewards, the winning warband gets +2 to its CWS, and the losing warband gains +1. And then you get some special battlefield corrections that could show up. So there are random events and stuff like dire enemies, rogue diplomat, and these can just show up. So like, even in the basic firefight mission, there could be weird things on the table like sinkholes or toxic clouds. Emanations of power. A strong movement in the world's ambient cosmic energies create a feeling of unease among certain crew members. Or power-ups, often drawn with esoteric symbols from ancient star cults. Power-ups grant specific bonuses to characters who stand within their bounds. It's a random size. Roll 2d6 for its centimeter diameter, and see how big it is. Power-ups are usually are useless to non-specialist models, but specialists can use a special action to try and identify them. So like, this is where having a specialist is important because they allow you to like tap into the weird alien, artifacts and crap that are on the plower, and you can see what they do. And this is where you get that kind of random RNG in the mission type where it's very like No Man's Sky. You're procedurally sort of generating the battlefield and what weird things might be on it as you play. And it means that even like the core mission, this is where a lot of the game design kind of sits in this book. It's going to feel different and like you're on a new planet every single time because of the weird stuff that's on here. I feel like the original Warhammer Age of Sigmar kind of tried to do this with the battlefield conditions, but because they were all just like pick a piece of terrain, it has this effect. They were kind of light. It didn't feel like you're on a new planet altogether. Whereas these ones, there's a lot of them, and they range from like the environmental to like the kind of like alien artifacty. And so they're different enough that they don't all feel the same, I guess is what I'm saying. And they could include miniatures like a wandering beast. Big bad guy shows up. And then on top of that, special events can still take place, like a cosmic curse, right? An alien artifact. Any character model in base conduct that can use a special action to try and seize it. If they fail, the character cannot hold the item and loses vitality. And once in their possession, the item grants possessing character +1 dice to all their defense rolls. It's kind of like finding the Infinity Stone that Star-Lord finds. Cosmic curses make a chance roll for every model in each crew in the battle. The first member to get 0 goals is cursed. Stop rolling once a cursed character is identified. The player manages to roll a positive goal total for each character. No member of the band suffers a curse. They suffer +1 to all target numbers, both in-game and post-battle, until the curse is lifted. This lasts over multiple battles and is cumulative with further curses. A character cursed twice suffers 2 to their target numbers. You just have a cursed dude in your warband for no reason. Dude is just chronically unlucky, which I think is hilarious. You can be dire enemies. You really hate each other, and then you get +1 dice for close combat goals. A rogue diplomat can be on the table, like an HVT in Infinity. A toga-wearing space god. A giant toga-wearing space god hovers over the battlefield. Show me what you've got. It's the Watcher. Who knows? Any crew member can use a special action to make a TN check to just commune with the cosmic character. If the crew member succeeds, he's given some minor insight into the workings of the universe. They get +1 experience if they survive the battle, +1 dice on any post-cosmic battle checks. Cosmic post-battle checks. If they fail, the toga-wearing space god becomes annoyed and lashes out with a 6 dice 2 damage mind blast. The character defense is normal but can't use armor rerolls or a body shield against the attack. While a crew member may attempt to commune multiple times, you can only gain the bonus once per battle. And then we get the post-battle sequence. So first you'd see what happens to your KO dudes. You roll a d6 on the table to see if the extent of their injuries, if they are damaged. So you could be captured, grievously injured, seriously injured, light injury, minor scrapes. +1 dice to the injury and crew in the next battle, or inspired recovery where you get an extra experience point. Rules for resolving this stuff. And then earning and spending experience. In addition to earning experience for surviving near-death events, characters gain experience points for surviving the battle and +1 if they took any number of opposing characters out of action. Taking a character out of action means forcing them to make a KO check that fails. Characters don't gain experience for performing coup de grace, and no matter how many guys you kill, you only get 1 experience point. A character may only gain experience points for accomplishing specific scenario objectives, and these are detailed in the rules below. Every 3 experience points allows him or her to increase capability relevant to his or her role in the warband. We call these bumps. Each time a character receives a bump, his or her player should note what kind of bump it is. Unless otherwise noted, a character may only roll a specific d6 result once per campaign. So if he rolls the same d6 number twice, he should roll again until he gets one he doesn't already have. Bumps that appear on a chart multiple times may be rolled for a number of times. So for example, if a chart lists +1 vitality on a 1 or a 2, you can garner up to 2 vitality from the chart. So martial bumps, if you're a martial character, if you could get +1 close combat, +1 range, +1 close combat, +1 range, you can get 2 to each of those stats potentially. If you're a specialist character, you get a new special trait, or +1 fate. +1 fates, you get multiple fate dice, kind of like being a hero. +1 vitality, and +1 dice to one of the following: range attack, close attack, defense attack, range, defense attack, close. That bonus can only be given once. And then general bumps. If you're a generalist, then you can get a vitality up to twice. Post-battle checks can be increased up to twice. A new trait, or +1 to an existing boost, or pick a new one. And then weird bumps. These are like you have to roll to see if they have like the chance to actually get them. And these bumps will rely on a successful 2+ chance roll before each battle to work. Roll on this table if your character does not mind Shuttle Ride with Lady Luck. So you can still roll on this table to get the bump, but because they don't always, happen, they have like sort of like a random diminishing return. You get the Space God's Favor. Once per battle, ignore, you can reroll a failed KO check. Dimensional Door, gain a free move after the battle setup or save this ability to escape a close combat with no free attacks. Rich Patron. You've caught the eye of a wealthy patron. Provide you survive the battle, you get +1 to your CWS during the upkeep phase. And then non-random, this is your crew wealth score. The CWS was talking about earlier. It's how much money you have. How many oolongs the Cowboy Bebop is currently carrying. Every character adds 2 to their starting CWS. CWS determines the group's overall comfort level and the ability to acquire new items, services, and supplies in the upkeep phase. Once players build their 50-point crews using the system and begin the actual campaign play, the rules usually shift from worrying about build points to this more abstract and flavorful reckoner of wealth and resource management. So first, upkeep. The crew wealth score for each crew member, each campaign is a maximum of level +1 per crew member. So a crew of 5 characters that have a CWS of 6 at the start of a campaign. Players record this in their campaign sheets. In this phase, players need to account for their lodging, training, healing, supplies, ship repairs, and docking fees. So a lot like going to town in Warhammer Quest, this is your sort of like upkeep for your crew. Add the credit points total from the last encounter of the crew CWS. So for instance, in Firefight, you got +2 if you won, +1 if you didn't. Subtract 1 credit point for each crew member. Subtract an additional point for each crew member that's taken out of action this battle, and record the new total. Growing Bloke, CWS never drops below 0, but while at 0, players suffer +1 to all TNs in the post-battle sequence. Additionally, only standard non-rare equipment may be purchased. If the check succeeds, the item is acquired, but if the check fails, the item cannot be added. Characters may not attempt cloning of their fallen comrades or any curse removals until the CWS goes above 0. If the crew finishes step 3 above with a CWS at 0, their first action must be to look for mercenary work. Because somebody's got to go find some extra money. Fencing the goods. In this step, each character in the crew gets to do something. It might be fencing goods to gain from the previous battle, buying standard equipment, or trying to acquire a rare item, or uncovering some piece of fallen star lore, or working to clone a fallen comrade if somebody died. Because you can clone people. It's very Altered Carbon or Infinity E. People can come back. It should go without mentioning, but to be clear, dead characters may not take part in this aspect of the post-battle phase because they're dead. That just makes sense. And then hero models can use fate dice in these checks, but using them in this way makes them unavailable for the first round of the next game. And the order of things, players should decide who will pursue what tasks before attempting any of them. The order of these actions can affect the CWS and the resources that you need to accomplish tasks. So basically, before anybody does anything, you have to decide who's going to do what when, so that if somebody gains CWS or gains money or whatever, you know if they have it or not going to the next step. In all instances, you roll 4 dice for every character plus any dice for special traits and models. Acquiring rare esoteric items. It's a TN5 resource. You have to roll those 4 dice and get probably at least 2 6s and a success. If not, a 6 and 3 successes. And this requires you can acquire any item from Chapter 2 that's listed as rare. If it succeeds, the item is acquired with no loss of CWS. However, it's failed, the character may still get it, but you lose 3 from your CWS because you pay top dollar. A single character may take up to 2 rare items in this step, but each check must be from a different item. And then acquiring standard items only requires TN of 3. Clone a comrade, it's TN5, but it's cosmic or science. You can get those bonus dice. Fence goods, TN4, but it's urban. So if you got some from a event, you make an urban check and add +1 dice for each specific rare item taken from a fallen foe. Certain scenarios may feature items that cannot be fenced in this faction. If you succeed, gain +1 chance roll to the CWS. However, the check fails, the character may be swindled and subtract chance rolls -2 from the next CWS. If the player generates +2 goals on the chance roll, he either gains or loses any wealth, because your money might go up and down. Go on a heroic quest, lift a curse, do mercenary work. It'll increase your wealth, right? So based upon how well you do. Each model can find a different way to earn their keep. Players roll for their character on the following table. Mercenary work can sometimes be dangerous or degrading, or both. If the character scores fewer than 3 goals, he enters the next battle at -2 to his movement value because he got his legs busted up. And then do research if you're like a science dude. Run a criminal enterprise, TN5 urban. Place the would-be raconteur in the middle of the street. He suffers an ambush by a number of trooper models equal to 4 minus a chance roll. Minimum of 1. The player should be armed with a pistol. You might actually fight a game in the middle of your post-game. Visit a cantina. Gamble. Seek a new contact. And the last phase, add new crew members or replace dead ones, like if you're cloning and stuff like that. A truly dead character is going to be super dead, needs to be replaced. Follow these guidelines. Subtract 3 from your CWS. The new player member can only be a model type that costs as much or less than the figure it's replacing. Or if he's entirely new, he counts the trooper with a special trait. If the equipment remains available, the new member may be outfitted with the same gear as the dead crew member at no cost to the CWS. And new members can be outfitted with entirely new equipment, but this subtracts 2 from the CWS. He gets 3 selections and a free basic melee weapon, just like normal starting crew members. So for 5 CWS, you just get a whole new guy. And then total experience and CEV, which is crew experience value. Now, the higher the value, the better the crew. The CEV is simply the number of models that have accumulated total experience divided by 2. Rounding up, count the hero models as 2 models making this calculation. So if you have like 14 levels and there's 5 guys in the crew, that would be 2 plus 10 is 12. And that would give you an underdog bonus. So the difference in your 2 levels, your crew experience values, will give you bonus XP for surviving a game and bonus dice that you can spread out over the course of the game. They're per crew. The other player can spend these dice by adding no models attack, defense, or non-combat prior to rolling any dice. Kind of like the fate dice. And then we get some sample crews, cool models you could do. A 2-model crew, Red 99. And Loki. He's born to violence. The Sentinels of the Universe, Major Meteor. He sounds like a Star-Lord. Rack the Wrecker. Lord Root. Gadget. He's a weird little dude. And Lethella. This is your little Guardians of the Galaxy. And we get some rules for building fun beasts, right? For getting attacked by beasts during the game. And some vehicle rules. The vehicle rules basically allow you to have like a hover bike or a small vehicle component. And you design what it's going to be, a lot like you design your characters. Give them little traits and bonuses. And typically both sides will include a vehicle that's being used in the game. And then we're into the author's epilogue. Why Void Pirates? That's a question some folks might ask when they see this game. After all, we did Blasters and Bulkheads 2nd edition just a couple years ago. The idea here is using the heroes, basically, being able to design cool heroes. Inspirations were Buck Rogers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Frontiers, Traveler, Shock Force, AE Bounty, Necromunda, Dune, Ice Pirates, and Battle Beyond the Stars. I want a slightly faster combat rule set and also included quick character and warband creation system. I also love the campaign rules I wrote for Goal System Delves and wanted to see this used in sci-fi as well. So here we go. Get on with Void Pirates. Signed Scott R. Pyle, June 2015. 10 years ago, my dude. We got our character sheet, and that's it. Void Pirates. We did it, guys. We did another one. So yeah, what do I think of this game? This is exactly as, so the core mechanics being opposed dice pools, like a generalist dice pool system, adding or subtracting dice, means that resolving everything in this game is super fast. Is it going to feel weird to some people that it's in centimeters? I would almost always recommend for indie game designers, do things in inches. Do things in whatever the major publisher does, measuring wise. I know that some companies do both. I know you can convert it in your head if you want to. It's a weird barrier for people. And I honestly think Void Pirates would probably do better if it was a little more like, if it was use inches for the 4x4 28 mil version, use centimeters for the 10 mil version. If that was just the guideline at the beginning, I think people's brains would adapt to it better, because you're just using a measuring system based upon the miniature size. And I don't think that's in there. I think you still use centimeters even if you're using 28 mil models on a 4-foot board. I would say it's probably easier. And that way the movement increases with the increase in the model size, and it kind of feels a little closer to what everything is going to look like. So that would be my recommendation if you're going to play this. Play it to 28 mil miniatures, just convert up to inches and everything. And maybe I missed it in the rulebook that it said to do that, but I don't think it did, because it only ever references measuring devices in centimeters. It's way quicker to just move 6 inches and then add 4. So that would be my one bit of like, just go with the major one, and then have a recommendation if you want to play it in 10 mil, just measure in centimeters instead and drop the scale of the game to 2x2 instead of 4x4. Probably probably the easiest way to parse that and just to get people's heads around it, because I do think it's something that would stick for some people, having to like switch the measuring system. As far as like the character design, I think it's perfect. It's a nice, simple, it uses points, so people can already wrap their heads around that. The specialist like subgenre allowing you to create like any of your weirder miniatures into, you know, like a themed, characterful, still useful in your warband kind of like dudes. And then having a very non-punitive end of game sequence where you can clone back your dead guys if you need to. It fully like leans into the superhero trope of no one's ever really dead, and you can always just spend money and credits to get back what you've lost. I think it's a nice piece of game design. This is kind of like it's an older indie game system, but I think it holds up really well. And I think that anybody looking to use like older miniatures, like Rogue Trader miniatures for 40K, even old like other game system miniatures like Void or Warzone, or, you know, games that still have rule systems, but like, you might just have some weirdo sci-fi miniatures in your collection, even like Reaper. You know, I mean, all the Reaper sci-fi stuff that you want to use. This is a perfect example of a game system to use those with. And it adapts perfectly well to using weirdo, you know, like alien miniatures on top of that. So really like the character design. Love the simple like resolution system of just opposed dice pools. Everything about it is easy and accessible, and you can't really go wrong for $5, right? A $5 price tag means that if you got some like, you know, like even desire to play a skirmishy version of a mass combat system, like if you wanted to play some hyper skirmish versions of 40K and have like a couple of heroes go back and murder people, while they're doing some light terrorism or light robbing. Void Pirate seems like, you know, some light kidnapping, just a few mild galactic felonies. This feels like the right rule system for you. So once again, I said this will be in the video description. You can just go down there and click it if you want to check out this sort of like semi-classic in sci-fi skirmish gaming. And if you want to get in on choosing next week's game, we had a couple near front runners. I think there was 3 of them that were sort of semi-tied. Lead and Brimstone was in there. Woods was in there, which is kind of a folklore horror game. Bunch of weird, crazy stuff was in there. And yeah, you can get on your vote. If you're watching this today on YouTube, then the next one will be probably already decided and being recorded at some point today. And I usually record these, all my live shows, around noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to try and get end of day for the folks in the UK and Europe, beginning of the day for the folks at Pacific Standard Time, and midday lunch break for us here in the Eastern Time Zone. So thanks for watching. We'll see you for more Indie Hour in the future as we decide what our next game is going to be. Don't mash.